Hey guys, it's Smurfs. Welcome back to Harpies in the Trees, where I review horror books with a supernatural focus. Hey guys, happy holidays. I cannot believe it's this. I just can't believe it's happened so fast. It's already the end of the year. Like, it's gonna be 2023. It's help. In today's video, we're going to be doing something really fun. It is the Addams Family Book Tag. It's a little bit of a celebration of the Wednesday show, which I thought was really fun. And I love the Addams Family, and I just kind of wanted to do something that was just a little different for the winter holidays. I'm also going to be tier listing the Addams Family movies. There's 5 of them in total, so that'll be really fun. And the other video that's going to be coming out for this holiday season is a reading of, some kind of winter tale. Obviously supernatural. Some of you were like, please, do a reading. And one commenter was like, it's kind of traditional to tell stories, during the holidays. So I totally agree with that. I thought that got to me, and I was like, yeah, let's do it, So I picked out 2 stories, one from England, which is by Algernon Blackwood, who it's my new author crush, I guess, and a folk tale from Japan. So I hope that you guys like those stories. And as you could probably tell, I am still a bit sick. I got sick last Tuesday, and it was really annoying because I lost this whole entire week, which I was really banking on to get a lot of things done. So I'm a little behind. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this book tag. Before we get started, be sure to like and comment and subscribe if you'd like to get more videos from me. So the very first one starts with, of course, Morticia Addams, who's kind of, the icon. And what we're looking for is a book containing your favorite character. So I decided also to try and talk about some books I haven't talked too much about recently. So for those of you who do watch all of my videos, just bless you, I decided to try and talk about the ones that maybe I don't talk about so much. So, I really wanted to talk about the main character in Playing Children by Michael Schutz, and this is one of my favorite reads of, I think I read it in 2021, I think, yeah. The main character in here is Miles, and Miles is like, I don't know, I really fell in love with his character. He's kind of wears his heart on his sleeve a little bit, even though I think he doesn't always want to, especially when he's dating. He has a relationship with his boyfriend that just kind of dissipated, and it just left him in this place where he's just doubting himself, And then he gets caught up in this supernatural madness when his nephew goes missing, and he finds a clue where he needs to go and find his nephew at this boarding school or some kind of institution or something. And when he finally gets there, he realizes that, okay, there is an institution here, but it's more like an orphanage or something, and it's abandoned. So then we go on this whole entire insane supernatural journey with Miles. And Miles is wonderfully raw. He's not trying to pretend that's what's happening isn't happening, but he's also trying to stay grounded as much as possible. There's also another character in here that I really like, and they're not really in the story as much. I forget his name. He's like a dean or something. He's someone who's in control of what the orphanage does. So he's this quintessential old-timey fat cat. Someone living high on the hog who's really entitled and who's not used to anyone saying no to them. So he's sort of a master of manipulation in some aspects, and he thinks that he can just make you do whatever he wants, and he's just kind of a really repulsive and cool and interesting character. And honestly, there's a lot of characters in here that I just thought were really cool. But yeah, so these two, Miles and the manager, were some of my favorite characters. Now the next one, of course, is Gomez Addams, a book about unconditional love. Code Red by Regina St. Clair. This story is about vampires in Virginia, in a rural area, and how they have this connection to this asylum called the Woodworm Asylum. And one of the nurses is Bobby Jean, and it's her relationship to her grandfather, Silas, where I feel like there's that really wonderful unconditional familial love. They really go out of their way for each other, they understand each other, but it's not like they talk sweetly to each other all the time. They're kind of always pushing each other's buttons in the way that you can when you know someone very, very well. The next question is Wednesday Addams, a character with a special hobby. Sundial by Catriona Ward. I actually didn't get to finish this one. I'm at page 135. I started reading this before we moved. There's a few books that I had started that I need to get back to, and this is one of them. I've seen a lot of people be like, oof, it's way too messed up, or it's too dark. So this is about a family kind of in crisis, and this mother takes her young daughter to this, unlike this place in the middle of the desert that was actually her mom's home growing up, and her parents were hippies, and like this is where they lived, and she's bringing her there because she wants to keep an eye on her daughter because her daughter has some really disturbing behavior. And it's this daughter that has the very strange hobby, which is she likes to collect bones and dead animals and store them underneath her bed, in the floorboards. And she kind of like makes these weird cryptic artworks out of them. She's very protective of them, and this is like her private thing that she does, I think just for herself, for whatever reason. I haven't finished it, like I said, so I don't know where this goes. So I don't know. When I finish it, I will know, but I do know that this girl has that one hobby. So, Pugsley Addams, a character that is both normal and abnormal. So I didn't really know what to choose for this because I feel like as a horror reader, almost all of the characters are like kind of come off normal and then are abnormal at some point or something. So I tried to find something that was a little kind of maybe off a side road a little bit, but it's Smithy. Smithy is by Amanda Desiree. I read this a couple years ago. It was very, very good. This is about, the premise is just, I was talking to my boyfriend's dad when they were here for dinner, and he was like, so don't you get tired of reading ghost stories? And it's like a really good question. It's like you read this very specific, like people who read a lot of romance, I feel like I would ask a question like that because I'm not into reading romance. It all seems the same to me, even though, of course, it's not. But I was like, well, I read so much of it. So I see a lot of the same thing. I see a lot of new things. So I know what I'm looking for. And I like to see this new stuff that people are doing. And that makes me very excited. And Smithy was one of those things that made me very, very excited. There's a lot of cool things going on with this story. So let me just tell you about it a little bit because it has been a couple years since I talked about this book. So Smithy takes place in the 1970s. And what's very cool about this is that it takes place in an old abandoned mansion. I forgot where. I think it's sort of near Rhode Island or something. But anyway, this place gets rented by a group of scientists, mostly women, who have come in to study linguistics with this chimp, Smithy. Smithy knows American Sign Language, and they just kind of want to keep working with him to see how far they can get him to make sentences and things like that. But it ends up that Smithy starts communicating these ideas that they've never talked to him about, which is ghosts, a lady in black, something weird going on in the house. So now they have this I guess, lab animal who's telling them this place is haunted, and there's these series of crazy events. And the way the book is told, it's through it's through documents and through recordings, and you kind of just read letters and listen listen to the recordings, videos, home videos, stuff like that, and whatever. And it was really cool. Like, I just thought it was super just unique and interesting, and never read anything like it. And so Smithy, he starts off as like a regular chimpanzee, but then it becomes a little special because he learns how to speak in sign language, and then he starts acting abnormal. Chimps to me are extremely terrifying because I know they're very, very strong, and they can and will rip your limbs apart. And some of that danger does play out in here. Now, the next one is Grandmama. This is a book that ended up being more fun than you thought it would be. And this is a lot of books for me because I am very picky and particular about my books. But I get so many books from Abominable where I'm like, I don't know if I'm not, I don't know, whatever. I'm just like so picky. And then like I'll read it and love it. One of the books that I got from my Abominable books is Richard Lehman's Flesh. And I'm not, so this is not my wheelhouse, okay? This is something where I would completely shy away from it and I would never buy it because I'm just not into this kind of thing. But I thought it was a lot of fun, even though like I felt like there were a few things that were kind of problematic about it. But I thought it was still like kind of like that 80s funny kind of, horror movie kind of felt like to me. There's a cop in here, which is hilarious to me because he wears like his leather pants are like so tight that he like can barely get them off, Just it was so funny to me. I don't know why it made me laugh. I guess I was. So this story opens up with like some guy driving in a truck, like just really recklessly, and he drives over this female bicyclist. And so this cop is called in. I guess he's more of a detective, and he comes in, he's trying to figure out like why this happened. But the driver was also found dead. And so as a detective goes in trying to figure out, what's going on, there's another murder, and things look like they might be connected a little bit. It is a body horror, I guess you could call it, thing. So yeah. So I didn't love it, okay, but I did have fun with it. I thought it was funny. The next one is for Lurch. I did change this one because I wanted to be a little bit more about Lurch. So the original question was a character that reminds you of Halloween, but I decided to change it to a character that was a servant or a butler or something. So In the Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. I read this, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. Such a good mystery. This is one book that I recommend to people that I know don't read horror, but they like want a recommendation from me. So the main character she's like a nanny, and she is hired by this very wealthy family, I believe in Scotland, and they live in this beautiful rural area. And they have a house that's like completely modernized. Like everything is like voice activated. Everything is run by some kind of interface. It's just crazy. But anyway, so she goes there to interview for this job, and she gets it, and it's really exciting for her because she really needed this. But things begin to happen in the house that are making her maybe question a little bit about the family. Like, is there something going on that's really weird between the parents and the kids? Like what is all this stuff? So it's kind of constantly like putting you in this position where you don't really know what's going on and what anyone's true intentions are. It's really well written. The next one is Thing, a book with an amazing sidekick. This was really hard, so I had to just like pick something and make it work, I guess. But this is Pen Pal by Dathan Auerbach. This was a really popular book a couple years ago. People loved it, people hated it. It was just such a it was just such an experience, I think, to read it. But it was a creepypasta or no sleep originally, and then they kind of expanded it to make it a book. And in this story, it's about this little boy who he has a stalker. Um, and it's something that he kind of has to um, like reconcile with himself as an adult. So in this story, we kind of get to see like how it begins and where it goes, and ultimately how it ends. But he has a friend who is like his best friend, and in the very beginning, when they're still like 5 or 6 years old, they would just stick together thick as thieves. They had a lot of, I guess you could call them adventures, where they would just kind of go places they weren't supposed to, even though it was a little dangerous. And they did share some of these experiences together. So that is the side gig that I guess I could talk about. I'm still sick, so like my brain is like, I mean, it doesn't function completely normally. So the next one is Uncle Fester. I love Uncle Fester. A weird but lovable character. I'm like, they're all weird and lovable. So what sprang to mind really, really quickly is Maggie from Maggie's Grave. This story is about a group of kids who accidentally awaken this witch from a mountain. But this witch is like not any normal witch, it's not like some lady on a broomstick. It's like this completely insane beast, that comes out of the ground that looks vaguely like a woman who has the strength and killing power of like a xenomorph, basically. So she's pretty intense, and she really likes to go for the genitals. I don't know, like I just feel bad for her, right? Like I feel bad that like in the story of this witch is like, that they did horrible things to her, right? Because she's a witch or whatever. And so she goes to this little town and she takes her revenge, and it's great. Like I just loved it. I completely love Maggie, and I will love Maggie until the day I die. Aristotle the Octopus, a book where a character has a unique pet. A lot of people recommended this to me, so I did pick it up. I did not love it though. I thought it was okay. But that was about it. But they do have these two characters in here, two main characters, where one character is definitely a pet of the other. I don't really remember actually what the premise is for this. It had something to do with like, kind of like some political situation between different states of industry or something. But anyway, the main character, he's like a scientist or something. I don't know. I think he's trying to disprove magic. I can't really remember. But anyway, he meets this dude who he can't die. I forget why that is. I am so sorry. But this character can't die. So this makes a very interesting specimen for this scientist. So he sort of starts just using him for his own, for his own things or whatever. Let's just call him the pet because I don't remember his name. The pet, though, has like a raging hard-on for this scientist. But this was the closest, I think, to being a pet or something. Charles Addams, an author you would like to thank in person for the world and the characters they created. I'm sure you know who it's going to be. Adam Neville. I love Adam Neville. If you're watching, I love your work. It's awesome. And like I've said before, one of the main things about it is that he can visualize very unique supernatural activity, visuals, like whatever you want to call it, in a way that's just, not only is it unique, it feels supernatural because he has this very good way of mixing the weird, the abstract, and almost like not really being able to tell exactly what it is. I don't know. He's just so good at it. Like it always is an exciting read for me. And the other thing is that like the stories are really interesting. Yes, there are some that I think are better than others, but for the most part, I think like I know that I'm gonna get a solid read for me, like for what do I like and my taste and everything. Some people have told me that they think Adam Neville is too wordy. I don't really perceive it that way. And I tend to not like wordy. I think for me, like when the wordy starts going on superfluous, or when the wordy is just, drawing out like the color of a cabinet into 3 paragraphs, and that's when I'm done. A cousin it, a memorable non-human character. So a non-human character, since I don't read fantasy, um, or sci-fi for that matter, I don't really have a lot of options here. um, Most of my stuff is ghost stuff, so they were human. So maybe that's not exactly. I don't know. Are they still human when they're? Okay, I don't know. I don't want to get into that. Okay, so I actually had to change my book because I couldn't remember why I picked that other book. So Ramina by Junji Ito. This is a cosmic horror, and in here is a planet that it just consumes everything. It's definitely not human. It has like no real sense of like, should I be eating planets with all this life on it and whatever. I guess you can kind of see it right here. Anyway, like everybody's going crazy because this huge planet is now on the way, and they don't know what's going to happen, but it doesn't look good. So this planet begins to be getting very close. They start to blame this scientist's daughter, Ramina, because her father named this planet after her. So they were like, they have the same name, so obviously it's her fault. And they just go into a wild mob and they start trying to hunt her down. Anyway, at some point, there are these, I don't know if they're astronauts, but they get to actually jump onto the World Eater, and they think like, we're gonna survive now because we got off the planet, and as long as we stay on this planet, we'll be fine. But the planet itself, it's also alive. So once they're there, it's like all of these tentacles and these eyes are opening up all over the place. It's really good. It's really gory. Kitty Cat the Lion. A book with a lion on the cover or in the title. And this is very special because this is the only book I have with a lion on it, and I do not have any other books with the word lion in the title. And this is the possession of Natalie Glasgow. Now, I've talked about this recently, but I couldn't help it because it's my only lion book. This is a very cool, unique take on possession. I don't want to tell you anything about it. It's so short. So it's just about a mom who realizes her daughter is acting real weird and how she tries to help her. The next one is The Cemetery, a book set somewhere you feel at home. So the book I chose for this is another one I just talked about recently, which is the Macabre Collection. This is a collection of Victorian macabre horror. I have talked about this book a lot in this last month or so. Just so good. So this is where I like to be all the time. Like if you ever wondered about me in any way, like you're like, what's she like, behind the camera, at home, just being a regular person. It's like, well, this is exactly what I'm like. Like I listen to spooky podcasts, I watch spooky shows and movies. I'm always like looking up something spooky and weird or whatever. I love cemeteries. I love spending time in them. I love learning about people's like ghost stories. I don't exactly know why I'm like this. I just know that I've been like this since kindergarten, like since I can remember. And I think it's just something in my DNA, honestly. There are no other spooky people in my family that I'm aware of. I've never really met anyone like me who has like the fervor for the supernatural that I do. And that's probably a good thing, because I think if I did, it would be like two black holes. They would just eat each other up. Like I don't know. But sometimes I think I would love to have spooky friends like that who are just like, just all about the spooky. But I don't know. I've never met anyone really like that. But maybe we're all the same because I'm pretty much a loner and like they're probably a loner, so I get it. Let's talk about the films really quickly. There are 5. There's The Addams Family from 1991. There is The Addams Family Values from 1993. There is The Addams Family Reunion from 1998, I believe. And then we have the 2 animated films, The Addams Family and The Addams Family 2. I think the most superior Addams Family movie for me is Addams Family's Values. I think like that one is just the best for so many reasons. Joan Cusack in it was just amazing. Christina Ricci with the whole entire summer camp turkey situation. I don't know. There are just so many things in that movie that are just so good and have just become really iconic. There's a lot more depth in the characters for Wednesday and Pugsley. And like Uncle Fester, I don't know, everything about it just cracks me up. It's so good, and it just makes me always so happy to watch it. I think it's brilliant. Okay, so for the next one that I really loved a lot is the Addams Family animated feature length. This was so good. Like, I thought it was so great. I love Oscar Isaac as Gomez. Oh, I thought it was so perfect. He was just so perfectly nailed it. It was really wonderful. I like this movie because it's about Wednesday deciding to branch out a little bit, and so she starts wearing pink and everything, and it's just really funny. And I don't know, I just found it like such a joy, like she's just rebelling in her own way or whatever. Super funny. I'm putting the Addams Family 1991 film in the B section. It's good, but I don't think it's as good as the other 2. And then I have the Addams Family 2, which I'm putting in the C section, because even though like it's the same cast, which I really love, the story is like kind of similar to the first film, where it's Wednesday being like, oh, I don't want to be an Addams anymore. I want to do something different. So she believes that she's like actually not even really an Addams and she was switched at birth or something. It was just so, kind of like way too similar to the first one. And it would have been really, to me, much better if like we could have focused on Pugsley or anyone else, because it would have just been a different story. And it wasn't really, I think, as funny or as entertaining as the first one. And then the Addams Family Reunion. When I did my poll, I wasn't too shocked on how that poll turned out. I feel like for most of us, Angela Houston will always be Morticia. Like she'll always be my Morticia. Like when I think about Morticia, that's who I imagine in my mind, And then Carol Kane, of course, was second. And shockingly, Daryl Hannah was the least favorite. I thought Catherine from the Wednesday show, who played Morticia, I can't remember her last name right now, I'm so sorry. I thought she looked beautiful and everything, but to me, she wasn't really Morticia. She was just, I feel like she was like too motherly, Like Morticia was definitely a caring mom in her way, but it was like her way, it was like totally whatever. And I just felt like Catherine it was just like she was almost too normal or something. I'm not sure. It didn't really work for me. And so back to the Addams Family Reunion with Daryl Hannah as Morticia. She's a beautiful woman and I love her, actually. I think she's a wonderful actress. But I watched this years ago, did not like it then. I tried to rewatch it last week and I was like, you know what? I'm sick. I cannot torture myself this way. I love Tim Curry. I don't think it's any fault of the actors at all. I really do think it was just everything else, Obviously, the Addams Family is campy, soapy, and it's silly or whatever. Reunion sort of felt like all of the actors had just got the script that day and they just had to make it happen with no point of reference or something. I don't know. It just wasn't very good, unfortunately. So that's definitely in my D section. I don't think it's a very controversial list, but I guess you guys will tell me. I hope that you're having a great week. You're preparing for your holidays, your dinners, your presents, your gifts, like everything that's going to happen, decorating and whatnot. So, again, happy holidays to you. Happy winter. I hope that it's a wonderful time for you. Be sure to like and comment down below. Let me know what you think of the book tag answers and the tier lists that I did. Other than that, please take care of yourselves. Look out for each other, and I will talk to you next time.